Since barely anyone is talking about this, but in the most recent direct that took place on February 27, 2021, a game that got overlooked called Famicom Detective Club is finally coming to the West for almost 33 years. For those who don't know, Famicom Detective Club was a command-style adventure, or a visual novel for today's standards, was released exclusively for Japan on the Famicom system. Obviously, it's in the title, but anyway, the first game being The Missing Heir, Part 1 was released on April 27, 1988, and later Part 2 being released on June 14, 1988. And the sequel, The Girl Who Stands Behind, Part 1 was released on April 1st, 1989, and Part 2 was released on June 30th, 1989. The first game story, The Missing Heir, starts off when a man named A.I.G noticed the nameless main protagonist of the game near a cliff who has amnesia, and later meets up with a girl named Ayumi Tachibana. She tells the main protagonist that she's an assistant detective to the guy that discovered you near the cliffs where you first met him. He was investigating the murder of Kikui Ashiro that took place in Myojin village. Upon investigating, more people were getting killed, and the people of the village say that the dead will return to life to kill anyone who steals the Yashishiro's family treasure. That's basically the plot of the first game. The gameplay has basically 5 command functions. Ask, to question the characters. Examine, to inspect the objects or locations. Take, to grab an item. Show, to give an item to the character. And there's a go function. Not sure what that does. Maybe it's like a confirmed button of some sort, but I don't know. The second game story, The Girl Who Stands Behind, is actually a prequel to the first one. It takes place in a suburban town near Yoshimitsu High School. The intro starts off with once again a nameless protagonist, age 15, that decides to run away from the cops. A man later known as Shunsuke Yutsuki, a private detective, decides to take care of the situation. He later takes the boy to a coffee house, and it turns out that the reason why the boy ran away from the police is because he was escaping from an orphanage to find his missing parents. And Shunsuke Yutsuki and convinced the boy to be his assistant detective, in which the main character actually agrees to. A few months later, they receive a phone call that a murder took place near Yoshimitsu High School. Upon investigating, more students were being killed at the high school, and it turns out there's a rumor that a mysterious ghost girl covered in blood that stands behind the students right before they die. That's basically the plot of the second game, without going into spoiler territory again. The gameplay is basically the same as the first one. There was a third game in the series called BS Dante Club Yuki Nate Tekako. I do apologize if I butchered that, because hey, I don't speak Japanese. I only speak English and Spanish. But anyway, it's considered lost due to the fact that it was only available through Satellaview, a satellite modem peripheral for the Super Famicom that you can download games and other content digitally. The story for that game has the character take the role of Ayumi Tachibana, the girl that helped the main character from the first game, to prove that her mother was innocent from a crime that she didn't commit. This was the first game in the series to include voice acting, with Yuko Minaguchi voicing Ayumi. There were re-releases like The Girl Who Stands Behind being on the Super Famicom, distributed via Nintendo Power Flash cartridges, a Japanese peripheral that allowed owners to download Super Famicom games and Game Boy games onto a flash memory cartridge. The Missing Heir and The Girl Who Stands Behind were ported to the Game Boy Advance. The Missing Heir was later released on the Wii Virtual Console, the Wii U, and the 3DS eShop. The Famicom version of The Girl Who Stands Behind were later released on the Wii and 3DS, but not on the Wii U. The Super Famicom version of The Girl Who Stands Behind were re-released for the Wii U Virtual Console, Wii U, and 3DS eShop. There is a English fan translation for the Super Famicom version of The Girl Who Stands Behind by Tomato and Demiforce. On September 9th, 2019, in a Japanese Nintendo Direct, it was announced by Yoshio Sakamoto that a remake for both games were in the work and developed by A.I.G, and he will be the producer of both remakes. Looking into Yoshio Sakamoto's work, he worked on games like the original Donkey Kong, Donkey Kong Jr., Metroid, Wario 4, Rhythm Heaven, and so much more. All the games that he worked on were great. It's actually a pretty good resume. Oh, and then there's Metroid Other M. Yeah, we don't talk about that. As for mages, I'm not too familiar with them. Come and think of it, I never actually heard of them before, up until now. But looking on what they worked on, it's mostly visual novels and record labels for anime music. So I guess we're in good hands. I hope. That's basically the entire history of the series. Overall, after researching it, it was quite interesting. A series that never got an overseas release up until now, 33 years later, is quite absurd. The whole point of this video was to make sure people who aren't aware of the series, like myself, to know what this series was all about and the history of the series. As the only reason why I'm aware of this series is because Ayumi was once considered to be a playable character in Super Smash Bros. Melee, but was cut from the roster due to her games not being released in the West. You are probably thinking, what if I'm not interested in this game? Well, all I have to say is, that's okay. You can actually spread the word to the people who might be interested in this game, or this series in general. I mean, if this sells well, we might get the third game to be remade. Who knows? Maybe other Nintendo IPs can be revived. Don't you guys want other Nintendo IPs to be brought back? Like Advance Wars, Custom Robo, Golden Sun, or maybe F-Zero? Who knows? Other Japanese exclusive games like Time Twist, Shin Oni Gashima, Famicom Mukashi Banashi Yukuki, or even Mother 3 might come to the West. Just something to think about. I'm not saying it's gonna happen right away, but who knows. Anyway, that's all I want to talk about today, so thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care, everyone. Peace out.